All right, in this little session, we're going to show you two different flow components. One which is a useful new drag and drop screen component, and another which shows how you can apply some developer tricks to do some cool things with visual images. So I'm going to start by adding a flow to this asset that I've got here. And you may have seen this before. What we are going to do is drag the flow over. I'm going to create a tab first for the flow to put the flow in. So I'm actually going to add a tab, and I'm going to customize this tab, and I'm going to call it repair service. And then to this repair service, I'm going to drag this flow out, and I'm going to set it to my nice new automotive service flow. And let me show you what automotive service flow does. It simulates part of a I know this is going to be, I know you think it's going to be crazy when I say this, but it simulates an automotive service flow. So we are going to take our Cordoba. We're having a problem with its Corinthian leather. And look, and you can see my flow here. Notice that some cool things are going on. No next previous buttons. I've taken those out and I've overridden those programmatically, and I've got a nice little hover effect happening here. And when I click on these wheels, it brings up a data table. The data table's loading in some custom objects. These are called repair procedures. I created them. And when I go to my next page, and I can use a date time picker and schedule my appointment, and I'm done. And pretty straightforward, but there's some subtle things you might not have noticed. Did you notice how each of the screens is basically the same size? That's actually because I added some padding. Let's take a look at what happens if you don't have that padding. So I'm going to replace this with a very similar version of this flow. And this one is called without multishim. And so let me show you what happens if you try and do the same flow without multishim. So I've got my nice big car here, and notice how this is a much smaller window, sort of bounced down. And then I do this, and the window size the screen resizes again, and finally I do this, and it's even smaller. And that's a little unattractive sometimes. You want to have all of your screens be the same size. So we're doing that in our actual flow example with a new flow screen component, a very simple one. It demonstrates once again how you can build useful little utilities and publish them as flow screen components. And we just call it multishim, and it's published to the unofficial library of flow screen components. And multishim basically just allows you to say, hey, give me 6 lines or 10 lines or 15 lines of padding. So you can see we've got the same application here, and it's much more proportional. And that's kind of nice. So if we go and we take a look, let's go back and take a look at the flow itself. So the way I'm doing this is I have a little component here called multishim. Multishim takes one attribute, which is basically how many spacer lines do you want. In this case, I found that 23 lines of spacing helps give me the balance that I want. Whereas over here, I started out with something larger, and I only need 16 lines of spacing. And if you're not familiar, then all you need to do is install multishim, and you can install it from the library of unofficial flow components, and then you drag out a lightning component onto your screen and you grab it from here and you specify it here, and then you just specify what you need there. So that is all you need to do multishim. Okay, so let's talk about the first part of this demo, which is this cool graphic thing. And I wanted to demonstrate just how easy it is to incorporate a graphic like this into a flow. And essentially what we did to achieve this is we created a lightning component. So this next portion isn't a sort of all you need to do is click. The next portion is really for developers who are comfortable building lightning components, but hopefully we'll get some of this into published forms so it's really easy to add these images even if you don't do any code. Anyways, what we've done here is we've overridden the next previous process. We've suppressed the normal next previous button, and we have this lightning component showing this image and then responding to a mouse click by going to the next page. So let's take a look at how this is done. I've created a component called Car Problem Picker. And all Car Problem Picker does is it really shows some images and it handles the clicks and mouse overs. So in order to make this work, we needed to break the original design up into 3 images. We've got the top half that doesn't change. We've got the lower half without the blue glow, and then we've got the lower half with the blue glow. So we've actually got 3 different images here. And we have added them all as static resources. So here is how we are invoking the bottom of the car, and here is how we are invoking the top of the car. So we've got the static resources in there, and we've created a couple of divs, and we're using those divs with the basic JavaScript on mouse over. So what we do is we've got 2 little JavaScript functions. When you mouse over the wheels area, we call handle mouse over, and that we're going to use that to make it glow blue. And then when you mouse over the rest of the automobile diagram, we want to unblue the wheels if they happen to be blue. So we've got a different JavaScript function to deal with that. And this is where the JavaScript is. And so you can see all we have to do on the mouse over function is basically set our wheels attribute to either the bright blue version or the standard bottom version. So we created an attribute called wheel source, and we're using that wheel source as the source of this image. So whatever value wheel source has, that's what gets shown in this bottom div. So what these JavaScript guys do is they flip between this image and that image. And that's all it takes. 1, 2, 3, 4, five, about 6 lines of code is all it takes to do that cool effect. Now, what about the click causing the flow to go to the next screen? Well, because with Spring 18, we now have programmatic override capability, and you can see it in use right here. It takes just 2 lines of code. When the click comes in, we get a special component property called navigate flow, and you can think of that as like a little control panel that lets you tell the flow what to do. And the way you access that control panel is you basically just call it and then you pass it a value like next, and that's all it takes. So once again, back here you can see that I click here, it goes to the next. We've got a data table here. The data table is set to show repair procedures, and that is pretty awesome. So that is all you need to do to create a very cool visual effect. Good luck, and may your flows be awesome.